Hey, family, and welcome to the 5 W's that you need in less than 10 minutes extended. Happy holidays. I hope everybody's doing well. So, listen, before we get started, let me go ahead and let me get the intro going, and then we'll get into it, and then we'll get into the chapter. All right, stay with me. All right, fam. Let's go ahead and get started. So, fam, first things first. Today, what we are talking about is we are talking about Genesis chapter 10. But before we get to Genesis chapter 10, I think we need to do a little recap on Genesis chapter 9. Now, with Genesis chapter 9, that's where we left off with Noah and his descendants, his three sons, was Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, if you guys recall in chapter 9, that's when Noah and his descendants and his family was in the ark. The ark stopped. God opened the door. Noah came out and he started praising God. He started rejoicing. He built an altar and he started rejoicing God. God puts up the rainbow and makes the promise to him and his family that he will no longer destroy the world by water. All right? So that is chapter 10. So let's get started. Let's do a little background on what's going on in chapter 10. Now, folks, the flood is over. The altar smoke has faded, and the rainbow has long since settled into memory. Now the world stands wide open, untouched, land stretching into every direction. And from one family, the family of Noah, humanity begins to grow again. Sons become fathers, fathers become patriarchs, and soon the earth hums with the moment of new peoples. Japheth's descendants push outward, reaching north and west, forming the nations that will one day shape the coastlines and the continents. Ham's line moves south and east, raising the powerful civilization, Egypt, Canaan, Cush, kingdoms built on rivers, trade, and ambition. And from Ham's line comes one extraordinary figure, Nimrod, a mighty hunter, a leader, a builder of cities. Those cities are Babel, Nivian, Erect, and the first spark of the empire. Shem's descendants remain closer to the heartland, forming the peoples who we carry the story of Abraham, Israel, and ultimately Christ. Now, Genesis is not just a list of names. It's the birth certificate of the nations, a map of migration, cultures, and languages that spread across the earth. It's the moment humanity goes from surviving to expanding, from one family to many tribes, from one land to the world itself. This is the episode where the earth feels again, where the lines are drawn, where identities form, where kingdoms are built. Folks, we are talking about Genesis chapter 10. All right, so first things first. Let's talk about who is in this chapter. Now, everybody that's in this chapter, okay? We're going to talk about the three sons of Noah. But before we talk about them, this chapter is known as the Table of Nations. And the reason why it's known of that because of the descendants of Noah, which are Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now Shem, He's the ancestor of the Semitic people. That includes the Hebrews, the Assyrians, the Aramaeans, and others. Ham, his ancestors are the Egyptians, the Canaanites, the Philistines, the Cushites, and various African and Near Eastern peoples. Ham, are you part of my folks? And Japheth, his ancestors are the Indo-European people, nations spreading across the north and the west. Now, I just want you guys to know there's some other key figures, okay, which is Nimrod. Now, remember we talked about Nimrod, all right? Now, with Nimrod, he's a mighty hunter, and he's one of the early kingdom builders, founder of the cities like Babel and Nivian. Now, I'm going to tell you guys, all of this is a good read, but I'm going to tell you, if you guys are going to invest your time in chapter 10, make sure you take your time. It's a lot of ancestors in here, a lot of people who are begotten, and I found it to be a fabulous read, but not just that, but it really breaks down the ancestors, okay? Now, let's talk about the what. What's going on in this chapter? Now, what's going on in this chapter is this chapter lists the origins of the nations that filled the earth after the flood. It describes genealogies, languages, territories, and migrations. So this is where all the, if you will, this is where the civilization was built again. This is where it stood on. Now remember, God destroyed the earth because of all the sin, which first started from Adam and Eve. That goes back to chapter 2, chapter 1 and 2, when God created them. And then, of course, Eve ate of the apple. She gave some to Adam, and that's what created sin. He decided to destroy everything, and now Noah's bloodline is the holy bloodline. All right? Now, let's talk about when. When did all of this happen? Well, this took place after the flood, remember? And it's the resettlement of the earth. So, of course, that happened when the ark stopped. God opened up the door. Noah came out, and he started praising God. He built an altar. Now, chronologically, it occurred before the Tower of Babel. And remember, Tower of Babel, we're going to be talking about that in the next chapter, which is Genesis 11. All right? Now, let's talk about the where. Where is all this going on? Well, all these different places. Mesopotamia, that's the home of Babel, Erect, Akkad, and Nivea. I hope I'm saying that right. In Africa, that's Egypt, Mizraim, Cush, and Put. The Middle East, that's Canaan, Sidon, Sodom, and Gomorrah. Trying to get these words right, because they're not usually words we all say. Now, Asian Minor and Europe, lands of Japheth's descendants. The chapter paints the earlier version of the ancient world's geographic map. Isn't that amazing? Folks, don't you think that this is amazing that from these three men, the nations were built from there? Now, I'm going to tell you something. I read this before lots of times, but once again, I never studied it like I did this time. All right, now let's talk about why did all this happen? Why did it happen? Well, this happened to show how every nation after the flood traces back to Noah's 3 sons, which also traces back to us. It has also established its foundation of global civilization, ethnicity, language, and group, which also is what? Revolving back to us. To give content to future biblical events, especially the rise of empires, to highlight God's continuing involvement in human growth and expansion, to show how cultures, borders, and nations began, not randomly, but lineages and purpose. So what they're trying to say is, y'all, everything that happened because God had a purpose. He had a purpose for us to regenerate, and he also, come on, he's giving us a chance again to get it right. Now, folks, just imagine, I was able to give you an introduction, give you a little bit of meat on chapter 10, give you some background, and I did that all within 10 minutes, and I said extended. So listen, I will make sure that the first of the year, I get this right, and I'm back on here right on track like I'm supposed to, because next week is chapter 11, and I'm going to make sure that I get that right, okay? So listen, before you leave, please like, share, and subscribe. jollystudios@gmail.com, www.jollystudios.com. Folks, I appreciate you coming on the journey with me. Thank you so much. And listen, next week is chapter 11. So please, if this is your first time joining me, go ahead and start back from chapter 1 and meet up with me next week for chapter 11. Because I'm going to tell you, it's all a good read. This is breaking it all down of how we got started and how we continued. So please remember, next week is chapter 11. Bring your Bible, bring your tablet, bring your phone. I'll be here. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. Like, share, and subscribe. jollystudios@gmail.com, www.jollystudios.com. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and have a wonderful evening. Salute.